Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Heart of the Gala podcast. My name is Bobby D, your host, and hopefully your fundraiser and consultant and auctioneer and all of that. So happy to be here today with a really, really cool individual. Joey and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and we were able to hang out together at the Raise conference. We kind of got a preliminary conversation that we had, links in bio. But I want to thank everybody that's listening, because you're listening. That means you want to improve your event, you want to raise more money, and you want to make a bigger impact in the world with your organization. And today's topic is all about that event experience. So Joey Goone with Utopia Experience, based out of the Midwest. I've got it with me. This is like, if there's any fundraising geek that is more geekier than me, it's this guy. So Joey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bobby. It's really good to be here. I appreciate that. That was
geek in the most endearing terms, I swear.
I've always been a geek and a nerd, and that's perfectly okay with me. And today we're going to nerd out on all things events and neuroscience and all the good stuff.
All the things.
I had to just sort of fall into that role with a last name like Goone at a very young age.
I can only imagine. Okay. And that's why you're so resilient and so thought forward and evolutionary with all the things. I can see that you are top of the game.
Thanks, Bobby.
Tell me about Utopia Experience real quick. Let's give our listeners just a little overview of that, and then we're going to dive in deep.
All right, my friend. Yes. So we are an event production company. We help organizations produce more impactful event experiences and tell more thoughtful stories, more immersive stories, more connective stories. Stories are the connective tissue that ultimately connect people to your organization and to each other. And so we do that for nonprofits and conferences as far west as San Diego and as far east as where you are today.
That's like the whole country.
It is. It wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way.
Well, it's got to feel good to be able to serve nonprofits and other organizations there coast to coast and keep up in their event game, right?
It is quite the task. Always trying to continue to innovate and evolve, but we're curious. We lean in, we ask questions, we try and go to a bunch of different, industry conferences and meet really cool people like you. Because what's happening on the East Coast is probably different than what's happening on the West Coast, or maybe some different form or version of that. And so we just have to get curious to continue to evolve and help our nonprofit partners do the same.
That's right. And that's a big thing for me, is identifying, especially from the nonprofit standpoint, identifying true collaborative partners to help you have this amazing event or gala, whatever it is. And there's some major components that are there. I mean, you've got the venue, you've got the caterer, and then you've got your fundraiser, auctioneer / MC consultant, and you have your AV team. And that's like the big four that you need to have. I mean, everything else you could do without the flowers, you could do without the decorations, you could do without the silent, you could do it all without those, but you've got to have a place to have it. You got to have the food. You got to have a place to listen and see the things that are happening. And then you have to have someone to deliver the story and make that connection to the fundraising. So I'm so pumped on your kind of that big view, as you said, creating exceptional experiences.
Yeah, we have to, I think you bring up a really good point. We had a client a couple of weeks ago who focused so much on the theme that they really forgot about the experience. So I think your point is, you have to have the right partners at the table, but you also have to care about the right things. And when you have the right partners at the table, especially professionals like yourself, Bobby, like Utopia, we're going to help you really think about a lot of the things that are going to help drive your fundraising, drive your impact, and to connect people, because you want people walking into the parking lot not saying, wow, that centerpiece was awesome, or wow, those were the most beautiful flowers. Like, sure, perhaps some of those components are important, but they're not essential. What's essential is that you're raising money, you're connecting hearts, you're inspiring minds, and you're garnering or people are opening their wallets and you're garnering donations.
Yeah. And that's what it is all about. It's I would say, beginning with the end in mind. It's like, what is the type of feeling that you are trying to create or influence within the donors as they're leaving, whether it's returning donors or brand new donors. You definitely want them to leave with something in their heart and their mind, to where when they lay their head on that pillow that night, they wake up or they think about it, and their subconscious is like, you can do more. you can help more. And then, you know, the next phone call or the thank you letter or whatever that is from the nonprofit, that next communication, then that makes that next fundraising conversation that much more easier, because again, created that great experience, created that great feeling at the event. And okay, let's just do this. Let's talk neuroscience. So a donor is at the event and they have this just great experience, and they you know, they feel so generous, they feel so loved, they feel like they are making that impact in the world, which they are. And then their brain just starts lighting up. It's like, whoo, they're like, oh, that's good. I mean, I've heard that that generosity addiction is a good thing. What are your thoughts on that, Joey?
Yeah, I agree. So like neuroscience for me and for us is, I mean, it can be unpacked and thought about in so many different like systems and approaches and methodologies and ways to there's so many different ways to think about neuroscience. So let me preface everything we talk about today by saying that I am not an academic neuroscientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a scientist, but we try and surround ourselves with individuals that are, so that they can pour into us, so that we can pour into you, our awesome clients.
Right.
And so what we've understood about neuroscience is if we don't get the importance of creating psychological safety at our events, then our communities will never fully come online.
True.
So the brain's really divided into 3 parts. And I don't know if you want to unpack it, how far you want to go into this, but I can give like a 60-second sort of overview if that would be helpful.
Let's do it, because I'm sure we're already melting some brains that are out there. They're like, I just logged on to learn about speakers or something. And like, no, we're going way deeper than that, listeners. All right, give us that, give us that groundwork.
We're penetrating in all different areas of the brain.
Yeah.
So the brain is, this is based on the triune model. There's a lot of different models and systems and approaches, like I mentioned, that help to make sense of how the brain's divided into different systems and how we think as human beings. So the front of the brain is your prefrontal cortex. So when you're in the state of belonging and love and you get chills, when you're either in an executive, function state of thinking, or complex ideas are happening in your brain, or you're in what some would call a flow state, and just feel like you're connected to source.
Yeah.
And time melts away. Your prefrontal cortex / neurocortex is online. Your neurocortex is also the outermost layer of your brain.
Okay.
Now, your prefrontal cortex is here in the front. Then you have your social emotional brain. You can sort of argue that like the feelings of belonging and connection live here. Okay. Now, these 2 areas of the brain cannot be online if the brainstem is online. So the brainstem is the amygdala, or the monkey brain, or the lizard brain.
The fight or flight. Yep.
So I was a guest at a gala a couple of weeks ago. And I walked in and I was like, okay, there are 600 strangers in this room. My wife and I, for those of you out there that have young kids, my wife and I have a 10-month-old. So unfortunately, she doesn't always get to attend the galas with me, and I don't always get to attend with her. One of us has to do babysitter duty when our babysitters are unable to watch our little daughter that night. And so this was an unfortunate circumstance where babysitters had to bail. So dad went to the gala without mom. And I walk in, 600 people, 600 strangers in this room. And immediately I'm thinking to myself, am I safe with this group of people? And do I belong? Can I be myself and still fit in? And I didn't have friends. I didn't have the boss who had the table. I didn't have my community in that space. And so what we need to do as event organizers is realize that we have to create the conditions immediately for people to feel psychological safety. And that can happen in a number of ways. It could happen like Bobby. I know that you and your team do this well. You walk up to someone and you know them by their first name and you say, why are you here? Who do you, what's going on? What motivated you to attend? Let me show you to your table. Here's my ambassadors, my giving ambassadors. Yep. We want you to feel welcome. That's one way to do it. Because remember, if you create the conditions for psychological safety, and you guys do that through, just little acts like that, relationship building, we also do it too. And we try and leverage technology to help people feel more connected. We can talk more about that. Oh yeah. But once you make people feel safe, then those other 2 areas of the brain can come online.
Oh, okay. So then you say, that monkey brain that's in the back, that if that takes over and you're walking into the event and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know anybody, and I'm kind of little off kilter, and you're kind of like, oh, am I in the right place? That's what's gonna, people are gonna focus on. They're gonna have those anxieties, they're gonna have those worries, they're gonna have those questions, and it doesn't allow those two front parts to be able to like wake up and truly be immersed within it, because they're so focused on that kind of that stuff that's happening on the back. But then, like you said, once you can get the monkey brain to shut up, and now the real brain actually gets to take over, and you start to immerse yourself within the community, immerse yourself within the story, immerse yourself within the mission that the nonprofit is sharing on that evening, then you're right, time just melts away. They say time flies when you're having fun, and that's where we want at the end of the night for the donors to be like, oh, it's over already. I don't want to go home. I want to stay here. I just met so many new friends, or I saw new friends, or saw old friends, or whatever it was. They're there. They want to keep that fired up, because then once they go home, then they're kind of in the back of that monkey brain, and they're like, what did my kids destroy tonight?
And it's a dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
And, the dopamine hit in an environment like this is one where you think at the end of the evening, it's the dopamine in this particular scenario is the I accomplished something chemical.
Yeah.
I did something really meaningful and impactful tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And you can either feel like you have an opportunity to either engage people in that way,
right,
or to leave that on the table where people leave and another organization does it well, and you lose that donor, which is why there's a 60% attrition ratio where people give once and they don't give again. And it's because we've got to make them feel a sense of community and belonging and love and connection.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right, that it's that donor attrition where there is another organization that comes in and makes them feel loved. And then now that organization has their attention, they have their dedication, they have their money, and you as the nonprofit that didn't have the effective gala, or as effective as you could have, that donor and their money is just walking away. And a lot of times you only have that one shot to make that great first impression, especially if it's a donor of significant capacity that does give at other events or gives at other groups, and attends your event as a guest of someone. And this is the chance to really wow them. This is the chance to then show that, the work that you're doing in the community, the impact that you're making, and then that invitation for them to join you. And it's that trust that we're finding that donors really, really rely on to make a significant donation. And it could be $100 or it could be $100,000, whatever it is. That's not going to happen until that trust is there. And then once that trust is there, they give you their trust, they give you their attention, and then they give you your dollars. Now that's where you as the nonprofit then have to, that is the cultivation stewardship process, which fundraising then has to take over with that. But that trust doesn't get built, like that safety you were talking about, and that trust, that excitement, that dopamine rush doesn't happen unless your gala is great, right?
Very true. Very true. And I think if someone really leans into this stuff, if you're listening right now and this is at all interesting to you, if you lean into this, my hope would be that, like, for instance, and I'll just share one, a particular case study or organization that's top of mind, that we just recently helped go from a $400,000 event to a $1.4 million event, just by understanding this stuff, by bringing in us, by being mindful of the psychology of events and the neuroscience, by partnering with an actual professional auctioneer. Mm-hmm. The right people were at the table. Now, can I say with 100% certainty that we were in the room and so the donations were 100% high? No, I can't, right? Like, there were so many other factors. It could be different donors that were in the room that had more propensity to give, more capacity. It could have been the auctioneer, which I know that was a part of it. We were a part of it, but collectively,
it all comes together.
It all comes together. And that was the result. And so my hope is, if you just lean into this stuff and get curious about it and start asking questions on how you do your event and see the need to change and evolve as a blessing, I can almost say with certainty that you won't be worse off. You're going to be better off.
Yeah, I could almost guarantee that by trying something new, taking a risk, getting out of the what we call the 6 words of death, the way we've always done it, that can just destroy everything. But it is that risk, it's that willingness to grow, it's that willingness to try something new. It's that it's like when you're lifting weights, you're tearing muscle. You have to rip things apart and then let it build back in, and then that's how you get stronger. That's how your events can get stronger. Yeah, you're going to have to make a much deeper investment within your collaborative partners. Maybe it's an upgrade on the venue, maybe it's an upgrade on the food, upgrade on the AV, upgrade on the personality that's on stage. And with those upgrades, yes, there's going to come a bigger investment, because again, you want the best and you want to create the best experience that you have. But it's like, just like you said, 400,000 to 1.4, that's like 3x. That's 300% improvement. And even if their budget to put this on was $400,000, and they still raised an extra $1 million beyond that. And I know with a budget of $400,000, you can have a really damn good event, no matter where you are in the world.
I think the average 500-person gala is somewhere in the range of 80 to 120,000 all in.
Okay. Yeah. And that's like top everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to be at the Plaza, yeah, I mean, your Plaza, in New York City is $100,000 a night, and then you got everything else on top of that. But wherever you are, by taking that budget and bringing it up, and then elevating the event itself experience, like that's one thing you truly can control of that. And then also controlling the conversations that you're having with past donors, current donors, donors, guests, sponsors, and whatnot. That's another thing that you can control, and putting them in that environment of that electricity that happens. And diving a little bit deeper, when a group of people are together, it's very similar to the tribe mentality. They start their hearts start to beat at the same rhythm. They start to connect with that energy and that electricity that's around them, and can very well, I mean, it's mob mentality, can be influenced in a particular direction. They can be influenced towards a positive experience, or if you take the cheap way out, they can be influenced towards a negative experience. But it's up to you as the nonprofit event organizer, whether you're the DD, whether you're the ED, whether you're event planner, whatever you are, you have that decision to make. It's like, what do we want to have our donors say and feel at the end of the night? I mean, it's again beginning with the end in mind. So, Joey, give us a couple examples of a few things that you and Utopia Experience are kind of using to kind of push that envelope. Maybe take some more risks, try some new things. What are you seeing that's working here in this past 2023 fall fundraising season?
So a couple things. First of all, we think about the psychological safety and the neurological pathways firing in the brain, and we want that to happen as soon as guests walk into the event. So we want to greet them with an exceptional arrival experience.
Nice.
So what we did for this event we just talked about a little while ago is, as people were checking in, we gave them colored paddle. So they have their paddles.
Yep.
And their paddles were, we had little stickers on the back of their paddles that were all different colors.
Okay.
So what we did is we called them by colors during a cocktail hour, and we had intimate groups of 20 to 25 donors, and we took them through this immersive touring experience inside of one of the parts of the venue.
Okay.
And so they're walking through this immersive tour. A volunteer who's very passionate about the organization is walking them through and sort of talking to them about why they're there and what they're excited about and what they love about this organization, getting them engaged, getting them, feeling connected to the larger group. And then we had 4 stations or 4 exhibits. And each one of those 4 exhibits that they stopped at along the tour had a 1.5-minute story of a family that was benefiting from the nonprofit's services.
Ooh.
And so these were just heart tugging. Some of them were optimistic. Some of them were a little bit more, like, hey, we weren't making it. and we weren't going to. And because of you, here's where we are, right? So it's sort of that hero's journey type of approach to storytelling. And so 4 different stories. And as the donors, as these intimate groups of 20 to 25 individuals are walking through these tours and hearing these 90-second pre-recorded videos from these families, they're talking to each other. They're high-fiving each other.
Yeah.
They're laughing. They're crying. I heard one group, they're like, it's a group of 4, 2 couples, and they're like, we didn't know you guys. We love you guys. Do you want to go out to dinner next week? They're like making dinner plans. They're getting to know each other on a personal level, Bobby. I just looked up there are many different studies out there about strangers' heartbeats beating in synchronicity. You can go and look it up. It's somatic integration, and there's a bunch of studies, but this was happening, where you connect through a shared experience.
Yep.
And you just bond on a deeper level. Yep. And so once they went through all of this, not only did they feel more connected to the mission and why they were there, but they felt connected to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then and only then did we introduce them to the cocktail hour. And then we brought them into the main room for the program.
Okay. So love that. I'm trying to coin the term or adjust and evolve the term of the cocktail hour, because it puts I think it puts a negative connotation on it, because this isn't a cocktail hour. This is that's not the purpose of that time leading into the main program. It's to connect. So we call it the connection hour now. And that's what you did. You directly connected donors to the stories, to the mission, to the nonprofit, but then also we're directly connecting individuals together, couples together, groups together, where there is that universal magnetism that brings them there. And then once that connection now is happening, then taking that connected group now into the ballroom, what are some things that you're seeing or that you're doing within the ballroom, within the program, that enhance that connection or enhance that safety or that just deep desire to be generous?
So, a couple things. Number one is, well, I don't have to list these out. I think I guess we could just kind of, walk through a couple of different examples and unpack any in further detail if you want to.
Yeah.
But think about in-event surveys. And I don't mean like the typical or conventional survey that's like, 15 questions. I mean, throw a survey up there. So we just did this 2 weeks ago at a gala. And the question, it was a one question survey. Actually, it was 2. I lied. 2-question survey. The first question was, how long have you been a donor? Ooh. And it was multiple choice. It was like less than a year or first time. Okay. And then it was, 2 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 10 years plus. Okay. 60% of the room had been first time donors or less than a year. And so what we did is we asked, by the way, the second question is, what's your preferred method of communication and how can we follow up with you thoughtfully next week? Okay. Text message, phone call, carrier pigeon. We'll show up to your house with a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks. Yeah. You tell us how you want to be communicated with, and we honor those communication preferences. So going back to the first question, all the donors who had been involved for more than 10 years, we asked them to stand so we can acknowledge them, played some music, made it fun. A round of applause for everybody. Now take a seat. All you first-time donors out there tonight, we want to love on you a little bit. Go ahead and stand up. We just want to welcome you to this community. They all stood. Then we asked the 10-year donors to go high five, connect with all of the new donors that are still currently standing. Make them feel the way that you feel. There's a reason you've come back for 10 years now. Yeah. We want them to be you in 10 years from now. So love on them, connect with them, tell them they're awesome, high five. Bobby, it was awesome. And it was just another intentional connection moment where new donors felt welcome into this community. And they're like, this is a tribe that I want to be a part of. Yep. So that's just one of, many different things you can do during the program. And this happened right before the live auction, right after the Fund to Need.
Nice. Love that. And it's that, again, that feeling of belonging. It's that feeling that you are a part of something bigger. And then to have, like you said, 10-year donors to welcome, new guests and new donors to the fold, welcome them to the family and welcome them to the collective impact that they're able to make together. And then then that's when that dopamine starts to fire. It's the result of the process. I mean, I know you're probably a Alex Huberman fan as much as I am, right? So he always talks about that, like what is the, where does that dopamine come from? And it's the process, of attaining something. And then when it actually happens, then that's where the dopamine really, really fires. And everyone has their own motivations to be attending a gala. I mean, there's, the donor that's coming, wants to leave a legacy. There's a donor that comes that wants to make an impact. There's donors that want to come and network. That's fine too. But each one of them has their own desire of why they're going to the event, and then now taking it like to that next level, like supercharging that experience that they can get blown away, and then they're like, all right, I'm all in. That's it. I'm forever with you all because you told me what I wanted to hear and made me feel how I wanted to feel.
Yeah, 100%. I actually just Googled Huberman because for a moment I was having a brain fart trying to remember him and his podcast. And the first thing that comes up was a post that he put on Twitter yesterday, which is no longer Twitter, it's X, which that's a conversation for a different day, but very interesting rebranding. But it's dopamine is not about the pursuit of happiness. It's about the happiness of pursuit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
That's it.
It's amazing. It's like one of my yogi teachers, I love yoga because it gets me grounded.
Yep.
And, it's about doing hard things on the mat and then realizing that things in life are not as hard when you challenge yourself on the mat. Things in life become seemingly, less challenging. Anyway, my yoga teacher always says you only become depressed when your full potential is not expressed. And so an energy, he's just talking about the pursuit of happiness versus the happiness of pursuit. When we're chasing our dreams and we're leaning into purpose, everything just clicks. It becomes so much easier. You have an opportunity. And I think so many organizations could benefit from this. It's not about the organization. What are our objectives as an organization? Of course, everyone's going to say we want to raise more money. Yeah. But what if we turn that question to the donors, to the audience, and said, what are your objectives? What can we actualize in you? What are your highest hopes and aspirations on what you want out of being a part of this community? And how can we make those come true?
Yeah, that's major donor conversations right there. That is your major donor officer, whomever that is, DD again are having and trying to create those conversations. But then now at a 400, 500 person gala, it's then having that conversation with everyone at the same time within that collective experience, and then inspiring them, inspiring the hearts, inspiring the minds, and then creating that motivation into that fundraising. So in that fundraising sphere, that fundraising element, while it's, what's happening, what are some of the things that your team is able to utilize or kind of tweak or fix or enhance to, again, enhance that fundraising program, whether it's live auction, paddle raise, combination of those, whatnot?
Yeah, I think what we talked about a little earlier in those exhibits, that's one way. All of those stories were filmed by our team.
Okay.
And so having really impactful video stories is something that's incredibly important. One of the things that you might want to consider doing, whether you work with us or a different video production team, is having a very strong fund to need video.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You have to have that.
Everybody does these, right?
Yeah.
But how can we go into that fund to need video and ensure that it's filmed in such a way where we can repurpose it after the event, so it doesn't have time constraints or it's not limited. It's more of an evergreen piece of content.
Right.
So we're always thinking about filming that way. And so when we're on set, we're capturing more than we need to specifically for our organization, because we understand nonprofits want to stretch their dollars. Yeah. And so that's just one way to perhaps think about the fund to need video, is how can we use this beyond the event itself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that
is, I mean, like right there, dude, like that, you nailed it on the head. And that's why I'm always really, really encouraging, our nonprofit partners to identify, producers and content creators like yourselves, that yes, you've got that fund to need video and played at the gala at the right time, with the right person to ask for the money and to create that experience. That video, whatever the investment is, let's say, it's 20,000, could turn into 50,000, could turn into 100,000, could turn into 1.4 million and whatnot. But that's only one day out of the year. But a nonprofit that's smart and strategic is able to use that video or kind of iterations of that video to then have conversations with major donors, have conversations with sponsors, have conversations with community collaborators, and to showcase like, look, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is the place that you fit within this. And that $20,000 investment in a video could turn into millions and millions and millions of dollars throughout that 365 year fundraising process. So I think if an organization is trying to take the cheap way out or the DIY route out, and they're like, all right, well, we're just gonna spend a few $100s on this, or we'll get the community college student to to produce this, we're gonna save a couple bucks, but let's focus on that missed opportunity. How many dollars are you leaving on the table by not doing that?
Bobby, it's so true. And like, I know we talked about this too quite a bit before we hit record, but like audio visual, and I know you all think the same way.
Yeah.
Like if we just do what you contract us for, you might find a cheaper provider next year that is going to undercut us, and you might choose to go with that provider just because of the cost savings. And as you as an organization, you sort of have an obligation to try and raise as much money as possible. Yeah. And so we have to do more.
Yeah.
Like transactional audio visual, or for you guys, just showing up the night of the event, that's just not enough. And that, which is why, like audio visual for us, Bobby, if you step on the stage and people can see you and they can hear you and they can see the videos on the LED walls or the projectors, whatever visual medium we choose to bring, then like that's a bare minimum for us.
Yeah.
It is an absolute bare minimum. And when we start to unpack the technology and we lead into psychology and neuroscience, we help our groups understand this stuff. They realize that they're like, oh, I am working with someone who truly understands how I can maximize not only the experience from a technology perspective, but they're out there doing the research that I don't have time to do while I'm running my organization.
Right.
And then it sort of shifts the conversation away from a cost to a real investment.
Sure. Yes. So much. And it's that investment in the expertise and the experience of who you collaborate with, with your vendors, and just as the donor is feeling safe, when they attend the event, or they're feeling that trust with the nonprofit as they make the financial investment within them, financial time or talent investment within the organization. It's you as the nonprofit event organizer that you have to trust your team. You have to trust your collaborators. You have to trust your vendors at that level that they will provide. They will bring in that exceptional experience to then elevate the guest experience. And for you, again, nonprofit leaders, if you have any doubt in your mind that the people that you hired are not going to bring that in, then you maybe made a wrong decision. You want to have that 100% confidence that these people are going to deliver.
For sure. Can I offer like 4 or 5 different tech ideas that people can incorporate and stick into their utility belts just so...
oh, yeah, please. We got just a few minutes. So yeah, go.
Yeah. So you asked a moment ago, technology in the space. Consider like we had a red carpet event, or it was an Oscar event. We brought a red carpet. We had a recipient and a volunteer on the red carpet interviewing attendees during the actual event itself, and they're asking them fun questions. But not only was it a cool experience enhancer and made guests feel special and important because they're on a red carpet, we had a camera, we had a microphone, we were recording everything, recording all those conversations, and we were gathering pertinent information about the organization's most important relationships just based on the pointed questions we were asking. Then their advancement team we turned that footage over. Their advancement team was able to sift through all the footage and say, these are the people we need to spend more time with based on what they shared on the red carpet. That's one thing. Consider something like that. Repurposing technology, repurposing the red carpet. Letter writing. So I was a guest at an event. They played this really emotional video of this little girl who had a terminal illness and wanted to go and have her wish granted. It was a wish organization, not the one that comes to mind. That's the largest. It was another more intimate group. And they had us write letters to her and her family. after the video played. We were all bawling, a group of 150 of us. We're all crying. We want to make her wish come true. Before we went into the fund of need, there was blank stationery in front of us. We wrote a letter to her and told her how much we loved her, how much we appreciated her, how much we supported her, and that we were going to make her wish come true. Mm-hmm. The group sent those personal letters from all of us to her. Then they sent us a video after the event of her wish coming true and also her thanking us for those letters. Oh,
and then just
they closed the impact too. We're doing a nonprofit charity event for an organization that is a radio broadcast nonprofit. It's a media nonprofit. So we're using silent disco headphones, which are Bluetooth headphones, to deliver a portion of the program, and we're sort of connecting people through all their different senses. Auditory, kinesthetic, there's touch, there's feel, there's vision. There's going to be all the different senses sort of incorporated into the event. And the Bluetooth headphones are just one way to do that. So maybe think about how could you do something like that to incorporate the theme and leverage technology to do that in a meaningful way.
Yeah, love that.
So there's just a few.
Oh my gosh. And Joey, you're right. Like we're really just scratching the surface. And that's why I love working with collaborators like yourself that are willing to think outside the box, willing to think progressively and be like, how can we keep pushing this envelope? How can we keep making this better? How can we keep enhancing that experience? So as geeky as we just got, I think we could even dive into a much geekier conversation and dive a bit more into that. But I know that you got to run and I got to go to a gala, and I think this is part one of the conversation. I think we're gonna have a part two coming up here. So listeners, please stay tuned. Joey, where can they find you? How they want to work with you in Utopia? How are they going to find you?
For sure, yeah. Go to utopiaexperience.com. And there's a form on there. There's a calendar app. You can click on there and book a discovery call with our team. And we'd love to hear from you. Or find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. Let me know what resonated with you and maybe what you learned from this podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn. And there's not that many goons. There's a lot of perhaps metaphorical goons, but
not with the E.
Not many literal ones.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Joey, thank you so much. Say hi to the Utopia team for me. Love working with them, or love working with you, and love having guests like you on the podcast here. So thanks again for being a part of this and spending a couple moments with us.
Bobby, very grateful that you've taken the time and and the space to have this conversation. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, you're very, very welcome. And I understand that you have a podcast as well. Want to give a quick plug on that?
Sure. Yeah, it's called the Impact Roadmap. And I know you're going to be a guest on our podcast. Season 2 is all going to be about interviewing some of the most interesting and impactful event producers and unpacking some of the coolest events on the planet.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So friends, you got to find that. All the links are going to be below, by the way, in the show notes and in the bio. So please click that. And this podcast that we're creating is for you, again, our nonprofit leaders, our nonprofit event organizers, creators that are out there that are working your heart and your soul and your time and the blood, sweat, and tears to, again, make that exceptional event happen. So hats off to you all. Great luck in fundraising season, whether you've just had your fundraiser or it's coming up. If there's anything that we can help with, please, again, reach out to Joey, reach out to myself. We're here for you. We want to help you. And you're the ones that are doing it. So again, my name is Bobby D with the Heart of the Gala podcast, presented by Inspire Hearts Fundraising. And keep going out, keep making an impact, keep being awesome, and keep making events better. I know you can do it. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Hit that like button, subscribe, do all the things, leave a review. We love you. And keep going out and being awesome. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time on Heart of the Gala podcast.